So Here's What Happened is a proud member of the Boido podcast community. Hey y'all, welcome back and Happy New Year. It is I, Neysha, and this is So Here's What Happened. And as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host,
Carolyn. Stop.
It's the way you looked at the dog. You know what? It's fine. Introduce Yoko too, because she is a co-host.
Hey everyone, we have a new co-host today. My dog Yoko! Exclamation mark at the end. Oh, she was quiet, legit quiet.
It's the way you looked over at her and you just like, you better not. And then she did it. You know what? She's the new co-host of the team. I love it. It's fine.
Just a minute.
Two barks if you agree.
What? I'll put you outside. You want to go in the living room? You did this on purpose. You're quiet and
She wants to make her debut.
She got to make her debut. She has to use her inside voice. Arf.
Oh my gosh.
I'll be back. Just a minute, everyone.
Okay.
Something else.
All right. Well, we are back now. So now that y'all have met Yoko, who had to leave. No, I love that. One day she'll be a part of our podcast fully. And we can just ask her 2 barks for good, 1 bark for no.
She needs to use her inside voice.
It's all good. But yes, so we are back and we are excited to, get into all the things we have watched and read. As y'all have known, if y'all follow me and Carolyn online in the spaces, it's been a busy last few months for us. Different things are going on. Carolyn's doing her thing, just covering all the film festivals and getting all the interviews, which I'm so proud of you, girl. And also, I'm just going to get this out of the way now because I know I will forget at the end when we usually share news. I wrote a script. Yay! I wrote a script and I'm very proud of it. It's a script about anime and manga and otaku culture. And it's so, by now I'm finally able to tell everybody this. So y'all, I would love it if everyone could watch it when the episode does air. I wrote a script for PBS digital series, Subcultured. It is hosted by Joseph Lorenzo, and basically each episode he explores different cultures that people may not know much about. They're not exactly part of mainstream culture, but as we know, when it comes to anime, manga fan and otaku fan culture, that is something that we have been seeing a shift over the last 20 decades. And I had the immense pleasure and honor of writing that script for that episode. So I'm very happy for y'all to see what my first script looks like and when it comes out, and I will be sure to share the date once I have that information. But watch the other series because I really was impressed with the first one that they did about accessibility in gaming. Like, dude is a blind gamer who is kicking everybody's butts, and I think his story is amazing. So yeah, I just want to get that out the way before I forget.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you. Look at us making strides in 2022.
I know, right? Whew. Regardless of the pandemic or not.
I know. Say pandemic, you can't stop us.
You cannot. We are going to thrive. But let's go ahead and dive into, everything that we've watched and read. Would you like to go first?
Yes. So we're gonna do films as usual, and then we go, because if you're new to listening to Here's What Happened, we break it down into sections. We do films, TV shows, then books. So we'll start with films, and I covered the Sundance Film Festival for January. So I saw a bunch of films. I'm not sure how many. I didn't see as many as I normally would because I've just been super tired because life has it out for me. I got my second bout of COVID, like at Christmas, my second COVID infection. So I was like super tired. So I wasn't able to watch all the films I wanted to watch. I think I watched maybe 19 or 20 feature films and 5 short films. So, but I'm not going to go through all of those, of course not. But I'll just mention a couple of my favorites. And 2 of my favorites was one called Nanny, written and directed by Nikyatu Jusu. And this is her first feature film. So she's done a short film before titled Suicide by Sunlight. which is to me, a really well done short film, and it's about Black vampires. So, if you think about Blade, but like a bit more realistic. It's not like a superhero kind of story. It is fit into like the Marvel world. This is just like, and the thing is, you're not told that they're vampires, but when you follow the story, you realize, oh wait, this is a story about Black vampires, and it's about how our skin, our melanin, is what allows Black vampires to be able to live outside, to function outside. So it's a really cool concept. And I believe you can find the short film. I think it's still on Vimeo. But if you go to the Saturday Night Sci-Fi playlist, I'll provide a link for that in the blog notes on the About the podcast page. I'll provide the link for that, because we did live tweet it last year, October, for a part of our sci-fi shorts mini festival, and that's where we watched it, and it was so good. And I'm so happy to see that she did this feature film, because it stars Anna Diop, and it's about this Senegalese woman who's an immigrant, moved to the US, I believe it's set in New York, and she becomes a nanny. And for me, as someone who's not only a Black female immigrant, but who also has worked as a nanny back home in Barbados, and then after I moved here to Canada, that was one of the jobs I had when I first moved here. I was like, yeah, I relate to this so much. There's so many things that she got right with regards to how Black women are treated in these jobs, especially by white employers and by white men and white women. And it talks about the microaggressions, but then she talks a lot about how the immigrant experience also is so much to handle. Like, being an immigrant is a lot to handle emotionally and mentally. And she talks about that. She uses the folklore of Anansi, the spider, and she uses another one called Mamawati, which is people call her a mermaid, but she's like a water creature. She's in West African folklore, and she uses those two folkloric characters to like discuss like the emotional stress that women are placed under, and finding strength and through hard times, and also through trauma, because there is something that happens there's a situation that happens close to the end of the film that made me legit wanted to reach through the screen and fight a particular character. Like, I was so enraged. But to me, it was like one of my favorite films for Sundance. And Nikyatu, like, it was announced that she's going to be partnering with Jordan Peele and his Monkey Paws Productions to produce one of her feature films. So I'm looking forward to see what she does next. And I'm going to be interviewing her for the podcast as part of my Sundance coverage. And I'm going to be
love that.
I know, so excited. And I'm going to be interviewing the costume director, Charise Antoinette, about how she uses the costumes to tell the story, because I think like she uses the costume design in this film really well to like talk about the characters and also the culture and the stories being told. And I just think it's beautifully shot too. And Anna Diop is amazing. And like, she's so good. And it was just amazing to see that story. And I'm not sure, it hasn't been acquired yet. As while we're recording, it hasn't been acquired yet for distribution. And I hope it really does. I hope it goes to a really good studio that will do it justice with regards to distribution. And the other film that I want to talk about is a film called After Yang, and it's written and directed by Kogonada. And so this film was premiered at Cannes, I believe, and it got like critical acclaim like from the moment it was premiered at Cannes. And then but I didn't really know much about it, because like it was like kind of like there wasn't really much said about it, even though like so many critics were praising it. They weren't really like talking about the film itself. And then when I watched it, I was like, this film is so beautiful, and it's so endearing and sweet. It stars Colin Firth, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Justin H. Min, who stars in Umbrella Academy. He's one of the kids in Umbrella Academy. He's so good. And I think this is such a great ensemble cast, because it's a multiracial and multicultural cast, right? And it talks about grief, but it talks about grief in different ways, because to me, like, the funny thing with a lot of the films that I saw at Sundance, a lot of them talked about grief. That's one of my favorite films the last few years have talked a lot about grief, but how grief can manifest in different ways and how you can grieve different situations. Like the very first film I watched for 2022 was Drive My Car. And that's one that talks about grief and resentment, and how we as people can grieve different situations. And After Ring is the same, because it talks about loss and death and what makes us human, right? And what it means to be a human, and what it means to have family connections and forming bonds with people. But it also, I think, very smartly talks about immigration, and how especially people who and it talks about transracial adoptees and transracial immigration. So I think it's set in the future. It's a sci-fi film, but it's so beautiful, and it made me like tear up. And like there were scenes, and I was just like, oh my gosh! And the casting, like Colin Firth, it's not Colin Firth, it's
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
Okay.
Yeah, my brain. Sorry, everyone. My brain has been super weird lately, but he's such a great actor. And he is, and I don't think Hollywood appreciates like what he does as an actor. Like he's so nuanced in his performance with this. And there's a scene between him and Justin where they talk about family and identity, and they use tea as an analogy. Like they're talking about making tea, right? About how like the process of making tea, and like where like a particular type of tea. And like in this discussion, like anyone who's an immigrant, right, and anyone who's a person of color can like hear this conversation and extrapolate what the true meaning is. And I think it's such a great how Kogonada uses these kind of things, like talking about tea and grafting of trees to make new like to use as analogies for families, and like creating new bonds and friendships. And the costume design for this film is so good, and the set design is beautiful. It's simple, it's like natural, and it's just like clean. And when I watched this, I just kept thinking the set design and the costuming made me feel at ease and comforted. Like I would live in this house that they made. And I did speak to the production designer, Christine, and like I'll provide the link for that in the blog notes too, because I spoke to her for the podcast, and we talked a lot about how set designers do work in concert with not only the directors, of course, but also the costume designers to make everything function at work. Because I don't think a lot of people realize that costuming and set design actually go hand in hand, right? And they have to work for the story. Like
absolutely.
Yeah, they have to work, and it's done so well in this film. And I just love these two. Are like there's like other films that I saw stand I love, like Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, starring Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown. And another one called Master, which is a horror starring Regina Hall again by Mariama Diallo. And another film that I really liked is a documentary called Brainwash Sex. Oh man, let me look it up properly because I think I'm mixing up the name. It's by Nina Manx, and it is a documentary about how women are portrayed on screen, and how the technical aspects, like the actual technical aspect of filming women, has created a lot of misogyny in not only Hollywood but also in society as a whole, because of like how women are treated as objects on screen. And like there's something like to say, like the way we are perceived, or the way we are portrayed on screen affects the way we're perceived in reality. And she's talking about how like directors film women as individual body parts does affect the way that women are perceived, not only in Hollywood but also around the world, because like so many directors are influenced by Hollywood filmmakers, right? So like she talks a lot about that. And she uses like she breaks down like films. Like she went through so many films and used as reference to show like how it is like it's become so accepted in film culture to like treat women as objects on screen. So the film is called Brainwash Sex Camera Power, and the director is Nina Manx. And I would love for her to do a second part, because like there's so much she covered in the first film, but I think this could be like a 4-part docu-series, because like there's so much to go through. Because one of the things that could be covered is just like how people of color in general are portrayed in the same way, but it still has like different like iterations on screen. So there's so many things that she covered in this film that I would love to see more covered in other documentaries as well. But those are three films from Sundance that really like left a deep impact on me. There's many other films, but I'll just stop there for now because I've been talking for a while. But as I said, I'll provide the links for those, and then I did write up just a brief list of some of the other films that I watched, and I'll link those as well. And as well as, of course, you can find like interviews that I did with other filmmakers and creatives for the festival on my YouTube channel as well.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Honk for Jesus. Like that one. Growing up as a pastor's kid, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait. I'm like, I like, I feel like I talk about whenever like there's like that kind of theme in a movie when there's like religion theme, but growing up in the culture, specifically Black church culture, I'm just like, oh, I look forward to seeing what this is going to be like. Because that synopsis looks good, so I look forward to checking those out.
It's really good, like any, especially for Black churches, like even if you live in like the Caribbean, so many things about I think across the Black diaspora are so similar, especially like things with church. Like you are, and even if you didn't grow up in the Caribbean, if you watch like North American evangelical TV shows, or I call them shows because they're like putting on a production with like Pastor Jakes and Creflo Dollar and all of them ones. Like you love like, yeah, that's from you.
Which reminds me, it's not the show I'm going to talk about. I'll talk about it another time. The Righteous Gemstones. Now that one's dealing with like white evangelical church pastors, but like John Goodman and a few other people, like very notable people, are in it. And it's a comedy, but it's also like, you know, dark mysteries, all this stuff that happens. I'm just like, for people who understand prosperity gospel pastors, like just like you said, Creflo Dollar, or what's the dude in Texas that didn't let people into the church when it was a flood? I can't remember his name.
I know
Jamie something.
Mean.
It was
the
Jamie.
one with his hair looks like stiff because he uses so much hair gel and hairspray.
Yeah, but like y'all know what we talk about. Those kind of people. Like if you enjoy. I don't know what it is for me. It just gives me a certain kind of gratification when we talk about like, yes, because there are those kind of pastors out there who will just like, I'm in it for the money, or you know, like they getting that money on top of spreading the word. But anywho, I don't want to go down that path. So let me talk about my movie. So I, like many people, waited for this one to come out on streaming services, specifically Disney Plus. So I saw it between the last time we had our episode, I watched Encanto. I believe that came out like on the week of Christmas for Disney Plus. So I checked it out. Everybody is still talking about Bruno at this point. Like every time I go to Instagram or TikTok, I am seeing something related to Encanto. And honestly, it is just that good for it to continue to be like a topic of discussion. And like, okay, let me just give you a synopsis for people who haven't watched it by now, which I get it if you don't have Disney Plus, but also if you have Disney Plus and you haven't seen it, y'all missing out. But the Madrigals are an extraordinary family who live hidden in the mountains of Colombia in a charmed palace called Encanto. The magic of the Encanto has blessed every child in the family with a unique gift. Every child except Mirabelle. However, she soon may be the Madrigal's last hope when she discovers that the magic surrounding, I don't know why they said Encanto because I'm pretty sure they always called her Casita, but okay, whatever this summary is. Casita is now in danger. Honestly, there is a character for every person in this movie, especially if you grew up in a certain kind of family. I definitely feel like the reviews I've enjoyed the most are the people who have been from like Latinx reviewers, just to get their perspectives, especially because like there are things that are deeply rooted in the culture in the film that I think is wonderful. Like it's a very diverse film. It captures a wide variety of just like okay, let me just go into the animation. The animation's great, and as y'all know, for me, I always look at skin tone when they do animation, and I love how the family has such a wide array of skin tones in the family, and I think that's so important. And it's very important for like none of them have that standard Disney princess look, where I think people really need to understand that, yes, Disney has usually had a standard for how their female characters look. And I like that this one really goes the extra mile, like the animators went the extra mile to not have each of those characters have that baby doll face. All the female characters literally have a different build, a different facial structure. Luisa, the sister who is super strong, her body type is so different and new to be seen in a Disney movie like this that I think it's amazing that we find out that her toys with her have outsold the toy with the other sister Isabella, which again, it's like it's not a shade at like the specific character designs. It's really a way to uplift and show like little girls can find, you know, representation or fall in love, and these toys can, like, characters can perform well in different forms than just the standard baby doll face or Barbie doll, because even Isabella's facial structure is not the same as like an Elsa or an Ariel, and I think that's important again because I'm like, we're showing different facial features that are specific to this group of people, and it's important that we can show like, yes, these toys can sell well. If we make characters who look like this, they will perform well. You do not have to whitewash characters for them to sell well, because I think that's like, we know this is like, that's a lot of reasons why characters are whitewashed, or you will usually see a more fair-skinned character, and like they don't usually introduce, like in the last 10 years I think we've seen it change and improved, and I think this is a great example of like, if someone were to ever say like, we should make her lighter skinned, I'm like, why? And this movie, in addition to many other movies and other things, is a great thing to point to, is like, they didn't have to make them light skinned to make the toy sell. I think it's just appropriate that we push those boundaries more with other shows. So I love that. And then like getting into the story, well, the music for me, I just liked We Don't Talk About Bruno. I'm just gonna leave that there. I ain't gonna go into that man because I ain't got time, and I don't want us to derail the show.
Everyone keeps talking about We Don't Talk About Bruno, but the other song too, Orogunes, is really beautiful. That's a beautiful song. And I'm like,
oh yeah, that one too. 3.
That's a beautiful song. Everyone keeps talking about, oh, We Don't Talk. I'm like, what? This other song here is a really fantastic.
I do like that one too. I do like that one too. But I was just like, I wasn't crazy about the first one that she sang about, like the grandkid roundup and all that one. I'm like, but you know, it's somebody's jam. But We Don't Talk About Bruno, Pressure, and then yes, the one you mentioned, that those are like my top 3. But I also identify as someone who's not crazy about a whole bunch of musicals. This is definitely a musical, and for me, I like this for it to be like a very music heavy. And it's important that the music is heavy in this, because like they introduce so many different so many songs into this movie.
The thing with the songs is, though, except for the ones that we mentioned, the rest of the songs are just like Lin-Manuel Miranda's other songs from In the Heights and Hamilton. Like, if you listen to all the songs from In the Heights and Hamilton and listen to this soundtrack, they're almost beat for beat.
You don't have to know that Lin-Manuel, like, it's like, make a movie and tell me it's by Lin-Manuel Miranda without telling me he's involved.
That man needs to find another rhythm and some new chord structures, because all they did is slap some new lyrics on the songs. I'm like, really? And I really like Encanto, but being perfectly honest, like every time those songs came on, it took me out, because all I kept hearing was the songs from In the Heights and Hamilton, right? And the story I love the story, because the story talks about generational trauma and reconciliation and forgiveness and identity and acceptance. But because the music is such a large part of the story,
that part,
it does bother me that he keeps getting away with reproducing the same songs over and over and over.
It's just like, it's the problem where you have someone who's so famously known for certain sounds and like making a certain kind of music, where it's just like, I would have been cool with like a few of the songs by him. And like the ones that I listed, perfectly fine, but maybe like mix it up a little bit with the other ones. Because I think, like, same thing as you said, like some of the songs just didn't hit for me. Maybe they hit for some folks, but they didn't hit for me. But getting into the story part of it, I think it is a beautiful, complex story. Like, it's so many layers to it, from like individual characters, but like we have Mirabel, who's like the main heroine of the story, and her, like, it's very easy to, like, for me, it's very easy to identify different family members and myself in this movie. For me, it's like, it's the way that I immediately thought Louisa was the older sister, but I believe she's actually the middle sister, which I'm like, yo, I feel seen by I feel seen by her. And then you have Isabella's whole struggle, and she's the firstborn, so she's supposed to be perfect, and so much pressure is put on her, and she has literally spent her entire life having to be perfect. It's not that she wants to be perfect. And then you have Mirabelle with her perspective. It's just like, my sisters have these wonderful and beautiful gifts. I can never measure up to them, and she feels insignificant, and she feels all this different way. And I'm just like, man, it just feels so easy to like look at this family, and you can like find somebody or yourself in there, because it's like I can look and see like, okay, I can see how my big sister might have felt the pressures of being the firstborn, and me being the secondborn, and my little sister being the third, like being the last born. Like there's so many different dynamics going on. But it was the way for me that I was like watching the movie. I was like, everybody has a gift but Mirabelle. And the grandmother, she has no gift.
Okay. All right.
But I understand why they did that there. And I was just like, I was so mad at that woman until we got to that scene. I was like, I want to not like you. I really want to not like the grandmother, and it's intentional. You are upset with her and you're angry with her. It's like Mirabelle has every right to feel everything she's been feeling, and then they have that moment towards the end, and I'm like, yeah, this is definitely like an actual family. Like there's that trauma that everyone can identify, or there's that thing about acceptance from the older generation and the younger generation where like they're just not seeing eye to eye, and there's that division or disjointedness. But then like when you finally come together, that's when things can heal. And I was just like, wow, I didn't need this to be family therapy, but I appreciate it. So
yeah, it is very like and I believe I saw a lot of my own grandma in her, and like even with my family, like I do, like me and my family don't always see eye to eye. Like no family ever really does.
They don't.
Yeah. So like I saw a lot of that, and like you talked about like the characters being different skin tones. Like this is the first I don't care what anybody say, this is the very first Disney film after all of these years where you're seeing such a wide array of skin tones, right? And hair textures. And like a
main cast, specifically in a main cast, because somebody might say like, oh, we saw them we saw like some brown people here and some black people.
We shouldn't say the main cast, we should say the main characters, because
main characters,
because point to that, the cast itself, the voice cast itself, does not reflect.
Right. So when I say main cast, I definitely meant main characters. But yes, main. I'm not even gonna dive in because we know how that goes.
Is not when you talk about skin tone, does not really reflect the diversity.
They put a Prince of Egypt.
And that's something that Disney really needs to work on, because like, they get all the accolades for being diverse and stuff for the characters on screen. But then when you look at the voice cast, like, you guys need to work on that, because if you look at Raya, they did the same in Raya. Like you got all of these characters like with different skin tones representing Southeast Asia, which is also a problem. And then you look at the cast, the voice cast is like mostly East Asian and all light skin.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Like Disney can't keep getting away with getting praise for representation on screen, and their voice cast does not represent true representation of the cultures of the characters on screen. Because the film is set in Colombia, but everybody in the voice cast is not Colombian.
That too. Yeah. So again, great movie. Things can still be improved on.
Exactly. It's not without its fault.
Not without its faults, but if you want a good cry and you got family trauma you want to unpack, have a go. or just enjoy the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, on to the next part. What have you been reading?
Okay, so I'm not really going to do full reviews because I haven't finished the books yet, but for January, or I should say not for January, for the year, I made a decision to try to read more books. So like last year I reviewed Iron Rated by Sharon J. Zhao, and my first two books that I ordered for 2022, one is called The Disordered Cosmos, A Journey into Dark Matter, Spacetime and Dreams Deferred by Chanda Prescod-Weinstein, and I want to make sure I get her titles correct. She is a physicist, and she is an awarded physicist because she's won awards and accolades, many accolades for her work, and she's just fantastic. And so she's an assistant professor of physics and astronomy and core faculty in women's and gender studies at the University of New Hampshire. And she's also columnist for the New Scientist and Physics World. And like, she's amazing. Like, I follow her, like, we're mutuals on Twitter. And it also geeks me out that she's of Bajan descent. So yay. So I can't wait to read that one. I love the cover for the book. Look at that book. The cover is so beautiful.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it's so pretty. It's like a Black woman in profile with like natural kinky hair, and like her face is like the stars. And so I started reading the book. I think I'm about 3 chapters in, and she's connecting like astronomy and the cosmos to like Black identity, which I think is super cool. And the second book I ordered is Kim Jiyoung, born 1982, by Nam-joo. And this is one of the most popular South Korean books in recent history, and it's so well. I haven't started reading that one yet, but I've seen the film that's based on it, that stars Jung Yoo-mi and Gong Yoo, and that film is really good. I'm gonna have to rewatch it because the one that I watched, the subtitles weren't completely accurate, so I'm gonna try to see if I can find another version online with like more complete subtitles. But I did enjoy it, and it talks about how women in South Korean society are treated. Like, people get all caught up in, especially for a lot of people not familiar with South Korean culture in particular, they watch Korean dramas and they watch K-pop videos, and they think South Korea is K-pop and drama land. Like, you know, that all of the men are as dashing and as lovable and heroic as the men in the dramas. And I'm like, no, it is not. Like, South Korea is an extremely conservative country, progressive. It's making a lot of headway, like progressively, with regards to like technology, finance, and infrastructure, and like, yeah, and their entertainment. Like you guys know me, I love South Korean entertainment,
right?
But the country itself is still very much conservative, extremely misogynistic and sexist. If you just look at the men, the people running for presidency right now, one of them is a raging bigot. He's horrible. Pray that he does not win the presidency in the March elections. And if you look at how women are treated online, like bullied online, and like they consider feminism, like actual feminism of rights for women, to be anti-male. Right? There is a legit anti-feminist movement in South Korea, and it is actually gaining a lot of like traction in the society. You would hate to think in 2022 it's not, but it is. Like, go read some newspapers.
I'm not surprised. Which, like, we still got to explain what feminism means when people are like, y'all just want female supremacy. I'm like, actually, feminism is actually fighting for equal rights for all sexes. It's just been labeled that way, and y'all don't know how to have, you know, conversations and read.
Exactly.
But okay.
Right. So I'm looking right. So the book was originally published in 2016. And since then, as I said, it's been adapted into a film. And when this book was released, the writer, who is, I believe, male, faced a lot of backlash.
Okay.
And then when the film was released in late 2019, early 2020, I believe. A lot of hate. The like Gong Yoo faced hate because he was the main lead, but the actress Jung Yoo-mi, she got so much hate online, and like people were protesting the film. Wow. Like, that's how bad it is. And like that, and it proved the whole premise of the book, which is talking about this woman, how she's struggling with postpartum depression and loneliness, and like she's facing discrimination at work, and even her own her husband's family discrimination, because it has to do with like in like their culture, like the wife is supposed to, you know, look after the family, look after the husband and all this, and like his family didn't like her, and so and it's talking about the loneliness and like how that messes up with women psychologically, and you know, and like talking about discrimination at work and at home, and also medically, and to see like how the real life situation of the film being received proves what the book is talking about. Like, does show people like that's, I just want people to realize that, yeah, like, please remember, these dramas, fiction, pure fiction. And even then, a lot of the male characters are very misogynistic and sexist. Like, it's not blatant, but if you pay attention, the things that they do and the things they say are sexist, and it kind of shows that how this behavior is so ingrained. And it's not only South Korean culture, but also like across Asia and North American TV. A lot of the love interest for a lot of ladies, for romance comedies, for rom-coms and like comedies or whatever, like, oh, he's the love interest and like he's great and swag. I'm like, yeah, he's also a massive jerk too, right? So that's just things. I'm really looking forward to those two books. And I've been reading some webtoons. I've been reading the webtoon For All of Us Are Dead, but the original title is different. The original title is called Our School Today, and their webtoon was originally published in 2009. But I've been reading, but it's on the webtoon app now. I'm almost finished. I started reading it before the show dropped on Netflix, and then they got distracted by all of the Sundance coverage. So I have to finish. I think I have like maybe 10 or 15 chapters to finish, but they're like super short, so they're quick to get through. Okay. And I recently finished one called Love or Hate, which is a really good drama. I love to see that one adapted into a Korean drama. And I've been reading another one called Semantic Error, and that one has a drama. It's a BL, or what male love webtoon, I think it's a yaoi, it's a yaoi manga. Yeah. And the drama, it's been adapted into drama, but I don't think the drama has been released yet. I think it's going to get released later this month. But that one is like really good, and it's interesting because one of the main characters is neurodivergent. So and I kind of like how they're handling it so far. I'm gonna wait, once it's finished, I'll go into that some more. But I think that's it for the books and stuff that I've read. So it's not full reviews, just things that I'm intending to read.
Hey, I'm impressed because besides reading about operations management and regular management, I rarely have any time to read anything. So that is why I love webtoons. And honestly, webtoons, hit us up if you want to sponsor, because I feel like it's the only way I'm able to read things that are entertaining and have deep story, but without feeling like guilty that I'm reading something for fun, which I should never feel guilty about reading for fun. It's just hard when you have assignments to do and work and other work. But anyways, the webcomic I've been reading on webtoons is Archie Comics : Big Ethel Energy. So yes,
I was trying to break. I'm like, okay, Archie Comics Ethel. And then it was like, oh wait, Ethel is a character from Archie. I haven't read Archie comics in years.
I have not read them in years either. Like I got into Archie comics through that one TV show they made like in the 2000s, and it would come on WB.
Oh my god!
But then I knew about the other one because that would come on, I think, on Boomerang. I don't know. I know I was introduced to that one first, and then I found out about the older cartoons. But like then I would read the strips every now and then when I'd be in the store with my mom. So like I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I also like that Archie isn't the main character. Let's get into it. So the synopsis is she used to be the laughing stock of Riverdale. Now she's a successful New York journalist with the I don't give an F attitude. After graduating from Riverdale High, Ethel couldn't get away from her hometown and onto her chosen path fast enough. When the mayor of Riverdale pays her handsomely to write a history of the city, she can't wait to return to take down Archie, Jughead, Betty, Veronica, and all the other Riverdale natives who made her life all those years ago. The only thing she forgets to consider is maybe they've all changed too. So the synopsis really got my attention. Honestly, I never thought of Ethel as being a main character, but I think that was probably one of the best ways to tell a story about Riverdale and Archie and all the other characters, because Ethel's story has a lot to do with, there is the character who was bullied, goes off, becomes a great success, and then she comes back and she's very focused, like, and we've seen it before. It's been done well, it's been done badly. I'm looking at you, that Netflix show with Debbie Ryan, and she was the big girl who had her jaw wired shut, and then she becomes a villain. I don't know. I ain't been able to watch past that show. It's not good. Maybe it's changed. I just don't like that revenge of like, I'm hot now. Where like, that where it's like Ethel was like so Big Ethel, let me just definitely describe. So in this series, Ethel was always like big, tall, lanky. She had a tomboyish figure. She was made fun of it primarily by Veronica, because Veronica is quite frankly terrible most of the time. But I think this is good as something where you have these characters that, you know, people may be familiar with how they are, like primarily from the Archie comics. And then you're able to tell an original story with a character who wasn't necessarily a main character and has the perspective of these characters that we, the audience, also do. Like Archie, oh yeah, he was super popular. Betty, also in that circle of being popular. And, you know, Jughead and them. So what I didn't expect was for the story to really grab me with, you know, Ethel, as much as she's grown into her own career and her own person and she has found value in herself, she has not been able to date anyone. So there's that aspect of it. So while she has had that trauma from like what happened in high school with them, there's this whole thing of like what she's working on with herself is that like she's had her bout of trauma with like dating and relationships where it's to the point where like she can't even tell when a man is earnestly like into her. And it's not like in this, oh, I'm just so clueless that he likes me. It's more like that she just still has, as much as she knows that she's beautiful, that that she has value in herself and all her abilities, she feels like, why would they want to date me? Like, what do you mean? Because she's had men like there's a one chapter where she talks about like how the ways that men have like used her for companionship and have made her feel like they're interested. And then when she tries to take a step forward, she gets shut down and she recoils back to that trauma from high school, which I think is relatable to various people where it's like, yeah, I'm successful or like I have value in myself. I know I'm valuable, but like dating and relationships in the year of the 2020s, shoot, in the last 20 years has been nightmarish for me. And I'm sure for other people I think y'all can just be seen by Ethel if y'all have ever dealt with, oh, has a man like talked to you just out of companionship and you thought like, oh, did he like you and you want to actually become something more? But no, you just wanted somebody to text it like all day and like to have companionship until like the girl that you really wanted was available. Mm-hmm. That's happened to me. I'm getting specific, but it's like, yeah, it happens. And it's a nightmare dating, honestly, sometimes. And I'm like, you know what? I like Ethel. I like her as the main character. There is like some romances. It does play with that, like, well, ooh, there's a few people who are interested in flirting with Ethel. Who will she end up with? What I wasn't expecting is that Jughead and her have beef. Well, Jughead basically got beef with her. Apparently, Ethel liked Jughead. Jughead embarrassed the hell out of her in high school. And he's just like keeping his distance and acting like she did something wrong to him. So I'm like, what is the beef? What is going on?
A lot in the original comics. So in the original comics, like the ones I read, like when in like the 90s when I was in school, that's how it was a lot because like Ethel like Jughead, and they kind of did the whole trope where she's like the desperate girl who can't take hints, and it was like he never really liked her, but she was super clingy and she didn't know how to take hints, and I never liked that.
Yeah.
And so that it kind of seems like that's kind of what they did, but they just kind of updated it a bit.
They definitely updated it where it's like it was in this one, it's not that she was desperate, it's more so that she did not know how to tell him that she liked him. And so like she tried different ways. He's just clueless and didn't see it. And then like when she finally like works up the nerve to like ask him if he wants to dance at the school dance, and then he just kind of like he really embarrasses her. And then the one that starts the book off is that like she's working at the movie theater. Archie asked for movie tickets for them to go to the movies, and Jughead was like, what do you mean? It's just supposed to be 3 tickets for him and Veronica and Jughead. So Ethel's there and she's like, wow, I thought I was included and I was going with you guys. And it's just like Archie does that, oh, I didn't know, my bad, I must have messed up. So basically not taking responsibility for like, y'all basically was using the girl.
Yep.
And Jughead embarrassed the heck out of her. Veronica was being Veronica the jerk. And it's just, but it's interesting to see like, 10 years have gone by. She comes back to the small town. From the summary, it sounds like she and Betty had beef, but they don't. Betty's actually the only person as usual who's actually decent with everyone.
Yeah.
Besides Veronica. And like they've been best friends. But it's interesting now that everybody's grown up and like she sees how they've changed. And whereas like there's still like I am now 28 chapters in, there still seems to be this beef.
How big is this book?
Oh, it's not. I mean, it's a webtoon.
Oh, it's a webtoon, right? Sorry, yes.
It updates weekly on webtoon on Wednesdays.
Oh, so it's not completed.
Yeah, so it's not completed, and I'm just like,
See,
this
that's
could
me,
go
and
on.
that's one of my problems with webtoons, because it's just like I because I'm a binge reader, or like kind of like not like for books, but I find for webtoons like I just like to binge read them. So like the
Oh, I
ones I've
get
been
it.
reading, I read at night, and I would read like all like one night I finished an entire webtoon
Yep.
one
I will
night.
read 200 chapters and start at 10 a.m. and go to bed at 6 a.m. It's a
Yep,
problem. I've done that before, and I'm like, I can't do that no more because I
we're getting
just don't have it.
old.
Yes, we get too old for that. But no, I think this is like the art's great, the story's very interesting. There's new characters, there's old characters. I'm very much rooting for my ship of Ethel and Moose getting together because I believe they didn't. I don't think they were a thing in the comics. So I'm like, I like this. I like this. Also, if y'all are a fan of the Riverdale, like the CW show, which I fell off that show a long time ago because I
That
cannot.
show's crazy.
It's very crazy. If you just want something that feels more grounded, but like has adult themes and actual adult issues or real life issues that people have dealt with, this is a good show, and it's still with those characters. So, um, yeah. So that's what I've been reading.
Sorry, my phone was doing some weird thing just now.
So then, yeah, that takes care of what we've been reading. And I guess last part onto TV.
Yay. You can go first with your TV.
Yes. Okay, great. Because I just watched them. So another one that is not completed yet, but I'm very excited about talking. I'm very excited to talk about is Vox Machina. So, all right, I just want to pull up my notes for that one. Ah, yes, Vox Machina. A band of 8 unlikely heroes find themselves on a quest to save the realm of Exandria from dark magical forces. So this is on Amazon Prime. It premiered towards the end of January and it's still ongoing. But what I love about it is that it updates in like 3 episode batches. So each week they have been uploading 3 episodes and they kind of just all lead into the same arc and build upon the season. So greatly appreciate that. Greatly appreciate that I ain't got to wait 1 week per episode because I don't have the patience. I mean, it's not that I can't like control myself with binging. It's just more like with the way that this show is like that it's been going and the story has been unfolding. I'm just like, I need to know what happens next. So like only giving me one episode that's really like 30 minutes is not enough for me. But yeah, so far there have been, I believe, 9 episodes now, with the last batch updating this week. And if you are into high fantasy, if you are into violence and action, and that's actually, let me just rephrase that. This show is very graphic and violent, like in a, I'm gonna say it's around Deadpool level. You know, I saw somebody get smashed with a warhammer on their head, and we saw the brains come out of their ears and eyes.
You.
Yes, I saw today that a man got his jaw shot off, and you saw everything just drop down. So like, it is very, very graphic, but it's in that Deadpool comedic, very action heavy packed way. So like, you know, I could see people who are just like into high fantasy, or if you're into the like high fantasy, but like it's not like Witcher. Like it's like Witcher, but updated language. Like the characters are definitely talking in a way that you and I would talk, not like in a ye old English.
So like Arcane.
Huh?
So like Arcane.
Arcane. Some do, some don't.
Yeah, because Arcane is like, you know, like they wear like period outfit like clothing, right?
Yes, yes. So
But
that's the
they
setting,
speak,
definitely.
like modern language.
Yeah, definitely middle, like, you know, think Middle Earth, think Arcane, think of those. Like if we were playing a game of D&D, that's basically what it feels like. When I watch it, it's just like you have all these different characters. You got the rogue, you got the assassin, the archer, you even have the musician, or like the holy person who heals, and the berserker, and then the wizard. So like there's like all these different characters types, and they all fill in. And like for it to be such a big cast of characters, I'm impressed with how much they're able to like give attention to each one. Like I'm just so curious. Like right now, the way I'm thinking it's going to unfold, it looks like, is that the first 3 episode batch, that was really focusing and building upon like the group as a whole. So they had to go on a quest. They like it introduces everybody. You got to know like who their deal is and what they are and who they are and like them as a group. And then it turns into them then becoming the unlikely heroes of the entire kingdom. So now they're hired for the kingdom to be basically their on call guard, like above, like they're the protectors of the land. Then it kind of, now we're in a point where it's focusing on one specific character, Percy, who is basically this. You learn about his history, you learn about his whole thing and get his backstory and where he's from, and then the villains of this arc got introduced as having a connection to him. So I'm curious to see if, as the arcs go on, is that going to be something that, keeps happening, where the backstory of the characters and then the villains, like, is it going to come into, like, no, the overarching story, like, for that arc, is it going to come back and be related to some past trauma for these characters, or is it going to be, brand new missions? Right now we're kind of doing the whole, oh, this character has a past with these villains, let's explore their backstory. So
sounds like a lot of exposition.
It sounds like it, but it's not. I think the way I'm describing it sounds like a lot of exposition, but the way they do it, it doesn't take up a lot of time. Like, there's flashbacks here and there. I also appreciate that it's the characters will talk about stuff from their past, so you get a sense of who they are. So you don't necessarily need to know everyone's backstory right now to understand their motivations, where they are in the present.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm impressed with how they're able to juggle so many characters, because I believe it's 8 of them in the band completely. So that's a large cast to give a lot of attention to. But they find a way to do it.
Watching much of the Amazon shows. I think the last one I watched, all right, The Expanse has ended. So it was The Expanse has ended, and then before that, the last show that wrapped up on Amazon that I watched was Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I also was like, I forgot Amazon Prime existed, because after Invincible and then after Harlem, I feel like I didn't really know what else was new or like a show on there. Like, I go there every now and then, but it's just like I'd be forgetting I have that app.
They do not do their promotion well at all. They don't.
If you're not tuned into a certain kind of timeline, you're probably not going to see them. That's just how I feel. I learned about Harlem maybe like 2 weeks before it was going to air, and I didn't see any like sponsored tweets about it. Actually, I saw it on Instagram more than anywhere. Watching, like, it's kind of weird to put it primary. Like, it's weird that I saw it mostly on Instagram than seeing it on Twitter also as much. But
yeah, I know about Harlem because we did a roundtable for it with the cast for the African American Film Critics Association virtual roundtable. But before I got the info for that, like, I wasn't really getting any press releases or anything for it.
Right.
And then
it's like Boxing Day. That was another one. I didn't see much about it. I follow Aja, the actress who's the main character, one of the main characters in it. I'm like, oh, you got a movie coming out? Ain't nobody told me. Like, dang. And it was a very good movie. It was a good Christmas movie.
I don't know what Amazon is doing with their promotion.
I mean, I think it's kind of like, I think it just depends. I think I see more of it now, but I don't know if it's just because I don't see live, I don't watch live TV, so I'm not gonna see commercials. I don't be on like Twitter like that all day, so I don't know if it's also that. So it could just be like, we're not the audience that are seeing it, because we're just not seeing it. Like, if you ain't camping out in the timeline, we just might be missing it. But anyways, that is my. So what was your? Oh, also I did watch All of Us Are Dead. As I told Carolyn before we started, it was the perfect thing for me to watch to get through my homework. Yes, y'all can shame me. I watched it with the dubs on, because sometimes I don't have the mental capacity to read subtitles, even though I do prefer watching the subs better, because I don't know, the acting gets across better when you have subs on. That's just my opinion. But anyway, we don't shame for subs or dubs here, or at least I don't.
No, for me, I have to finish All of Us Are Dead. This show came out mid-January. Yeah, I binged 10 episodes. It's 12 episodes in total. I binged 10 episodes the Friday night and there's Saturday, and I have not been able to finish it. I have 2 episodes left. And somehow I cannot find the will to finish these 2 episodes. I'm going to, because I do want to review for the drama podcast, but it's just like this. As I said earlier in the episode, I've been reading the web comic, and the changes they made.
I was going to ask you about this because I'm usually a person who would like to read before I watch, and sometimes I don't mind going back to reading, but after I've watched something, especially if I didn't know it was already made like in a book. So are the change, because looking at it like first glance at like just the cover and the synopsis, I was like, y'all changed character designs. I don't know if that was just because like you wanted to make it more specific stylization compared to like how they designed the characters. So that aside, I was curious of like how different is the story in the book?
So different. Like there's like 4, from what I've seen so far in the show, there's like 4 or 5 subplots that do not exist in the webcomic.
Oh, okay.
At all. Like the girl giving birth, the baby, the cop, and the guy. Like in the comics, there is no student that gives birth.
Okay.
The way how the show starts out with the girl being sexually harassed and bullied. That particular story, there is a small sub story that exists in the webcomic about this guy who's like this guy who is like a misogynist, and like he does like bully this girl a bit because like, but it's not like sexualized the same way it is in the show, but like that whole thing with the girl wanting revenge. First of all, that particular character does not exist at all.
She didn't make sense in the show. She didn't make sense except for it to drive the plot to the infection spreading. That was literally.
But there's another character that deals with that. Like there's like she doesn't exist in the story. So like first having the show open with a female character being sexually assaulted, because that is sexual assault.
Oh yeah, it's sexual assault.
For what reason, I don't know. Having her breast bared, all of that does not exist in the story. So why do you put it in the thing? Like I read a friend was supposed to send me a clip. Like, so the director said he did because he wanted it to make it more provocative. Excuse me, it's a drama about a zombie apocalypse taking place in a school where children are being tormented and terrified. That's provocative enough.
You don't really need to make it provocative. Like,
and I'm telling you, they did that specifically to appeal to American audiences, and this is something I've been talking about. Where I said like one of my main concerns about Netflix in particular producing so many Korean dramas and they're marketing it towards American audiences is they're going to add way more sexual components to them than is necessary than already exists in Korean dramas. But that's a whole different discussion.
Because you can just make the girl being bullied without it turning it to it. Because like I get that they were like, we need to go edgier and make it like sexual assault bullying or whatever. But I'm like, okay, but you could still get across that she was being bullied and threatened and blackmailed without even having that scene. We could have that whole thing could have happened without it even being shown.
That's unnecessary because remember, these are underage actors and characters.
That makes me feel gross. Like I get it because like, okay, it makes me feel different about that scene completely. It's not that I liked it anyways. It was just like, oh yeah, no, I know that honestly, it can happen anywhere where if a girl is being bullied, of course, they're going to use nudes to blackmail her. That's something that definitely does happen. You having that context, I'm thinking of it as like, oh yeah, this is something that definitely does happen. But using it in the context of you wanting to make it more provocative, that gives it a different thing. Because you could definitely try to like pivot and say like, oh, we did it because we want to show that this actually happens. But if you're doing it for the motives of wanting to make it provocative
and edgy,
that's not necessary. You could literally just say that they have pictures of her nudes or a video of her nudes or whatever. I mean, it's his. If he had never said that, I think I would have just continued to think of it as they did this because this actually happens. Like, with that context, I'm like, that makes me feel.
Yeah, that's different. One of my main problems with like Netflix in particular adapting these dramas. But there's that. But then there's also the whole subplot with the guy, the dad who's a fireman, who's like basically like a special ops guy because the shit he's doing, does not exist in is a character that character where one of the students that thing he actually spoiler dies in the comics. Like
it's the way
like, and he's not even a fireman. Like again, and the thing, my problem with them adding these characters is that it prolongs the story more than it needs to.
The mom going to the school and the horde of zombies, and
Does
then
not
even seeing her son, not even making a sacrifice. It literally all the fire. Okay, I liked the story with the dad coming to rescue the girl. I thought that was a nice story, and it like at least he helped and saved him, and everything he did actually contributed to something. But the mother, that was literally just to traumatize that boy. That was
and
that was it.
A subplot that doesn't, neither of those parents exist in the webtoon. So that's
right.
Again, extra time wasted focusing on characters that are unnecessary.
I mean, they did that whole thing with and again, action. I could see why they did with the dad, because they like it made it more high intensity, or like, high intense. But it's zombies. Like, but there's right. It's a show about zombies taking over a school and kids are trying to survive. That was intense enough for me.
And the thing is like what they have him doing is like the scenes with the cop and the trainee cop and the guy that they find. First that guy that they find that wears a stupid orange hat, again, another character that does not exist in the webtoon. So all of these comical aspects do not exist. The webtoon is straight up drama and thriller. There's nothing comedic about it. So like you
that
have
these weird. I will say
make no sense.
Yeah, I will say the thing that I found weird was the comedic moments where I'm like, is this because y'all want to balance out like the death? Because I'm just saying,
but they're not done
they felt odd. They just felt like they didn't fit. It felt like, why are we trying to make a joke when like I get that they're kids and they gotta process all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just want to mix it up and add in something funny here or there. But it doesn't work. It's not like this isn't a comedy. So as much as they plugged in the jokes, it just didn't work for me.
That's the thing, because there are dramas that are thrillers, and even films, and that's one of the things that I think I would say particularly Korean dramas and Japanese dramas excel at, where you can have like a super intense plot and storyline, and you can still have these very small moments that bring enough levity that gives the audience like a breather. Right. But with this show, it does not work at all. Like it just takes you out of it, and it feels like two completely different stories being told. And again, like this is more time being wasted on characters that don't exist. And then like the whole thing with the politicians, another subplot that don't exist. There's a plot where like it's the government officials talking about how to control the outbreak and like what the steps that exists in the comics, but that's not what they're showing. In the show, they're showing these politicians getting political machinations, and like they got arrested and all that. Another subplot does not exist. Takes away from the story. The guy that we mentioned before, the female student, that doesn't exist. The other guy, the other male student that basically betrays her and is a coward, does not exist in the
which he doesn't really serve a point until later on, where he just dies, and it's like, okay, like, whatever.
He stopped the other kids from getting saved. Why? But what was the point? What's the point of this character?
There are some points like that where I'm like, I get it, because it's a zombie show and people will just die. So like, don't get attached to anyone.
But he serves no purpose.
But some of them, right, the ones who serve no purpose, like honestly, I really just like the dynamics with the core children. And I did appreciate the fact that like, and I mean this in the best of ways, it's like you really did not know who was going to die next. And some of the with that group. Everything else, I kind of just like, I don't really care. Get back to the kids at the school. There's that whole dynamic of them like, y'all literally abandoned us here. The adults don't care about children. Like and I mean like that whole theme, I think they did a great job of driving home of just like, no, it's clear here that the adults are fine with abandoning children here and prioritizing themselves over these young people. And it makes complete sense. And it's like, it was even the way that the councilwoman was like, I'm worried about my daughter too. Have you talked about your daughter at all?
Not once.
Except for maybe 2 times you mentioned you had a daughter.
But you ain't worried about a kid?
You got a kid? Ain't your kid at that school? Ain't you worried that you ain't heard from your daughter at all? Your daughter is at that school? Like, no.
It does not exist in the stories.
Didn't even tell the fireman, if you get to the school, my daughter's name is this. I was waiting for that. I'm like, your daughter's at the school. Are you not even going to say, if you get to the school, my daughter's name is this? If you find her, please bring her back with you. She didn't say that. She didn't even say dad. I was just like, oh, so you were you had accepted that your daughter was dead and you were fine with that.
It's so silly. And then the other problem with this show, the zombies themselves to me aren't threatening. They're comical. Like they move to. So like, you know, there's a scene where one of them is in the hospital. The guy's getting the MRI, whatever. And she skitters across the floor like a darn centipede.
Okay,
I laughed at that. I don't think these zombies are threatening because, yes, the thing with like Korean zombies in particular, like quote unquote Korean zombies, is like they are known for being fast moving and like very acrobatic. Like, you know, they get contortionists to play these zombies, which it makes perfect sense. But the thing with these particular zombies is that they're too animated. They're, you know, like the choreography for how they move and the speed that the scenes are edited at is just a bit too quick for me. And it takes me off it. I'm like, I can't take you serious. Like, none of you are threatening to me. You're comical. They're like what a parody of the zombies would be.
The only moments that really felt very threatening was when, like, you know, just like at the moment when they were about to like be killed or like they're escaping, because like in the library scene, like that was probably the most intense moment for me, where I was like, this character is in danger. If he messes up, he's dead. He's just dead. And so like that was probably an intense moment. But like it's so again, we've already said spoilers. It's the part where I'm just gonna call her the bitchy popular girl, like the one who was like all snooty about being rich and everything, and she basically, you know, every zombie show has that one character who is self-serving and will sacrifice anybody else.
It's a trope.
The reveal that she killed that boy, she literally purposely infected him because she felt she was being bullied and everybody was being unfair to her. That to me was when I said, I dropped everything I was doing. I was like, hold up, this is a villain. I hate her.
She's a villain in the book.
I hate her.
And she gets dealt with and the way she gets dealt with in the comic, in the webtoon, is vastly different to how she's dealt with in
Does she have a redemption arc in the
No, she does not get redemption. She does not get redeemed, but the way she dies is not the same way it happens in the story in the and that's what, because the way how it's handled in the story, because it's talking about classism and social economic disparities and that kind of stuff, and the way it's addressed in the webtoon to me is done so much better because like the writer makes it so much more plain that this is what it's about, and it, like you have the other students discussing it. The other students, like even after she dies in the webtoon, the other students still kept talking about it because they couldn't understand like, why is she this way, right? And whereas in the show, like they don't really show you the other students actually talking about her being a bully and about her being classist, and like it just happens and it's like there's no discussion about it. I'm like, there should be a discussion about this, but it doesn't happen.
The discussion was so brief. It was really just like they finally stood up to her and said, like, cut it out. What is your problem? What is, like, we are all in the same situation. It does not matter that he is here on a scholarship, or like it was just like, yeah, this bitch is crazy. Like there are bigger problems. And it's the fact that like she saw a way to do all of this. And I'm just like, wow, you were terrible. And I could not wait for her to die.
Yeah.
I was just like fully invested in like, oh, I can't wait for her to die. And then I thought they were going to go the route of her getting like having a redemption arc. And I was like, no.
Oh, she doesn't get redeemed.
No,
but the kids in the webtoon, the kids do talk about how what makes a murder in a situation like this. Right. Does not happen in the show, but in the webtoon, it does. The kids talk about the morality and the ethics of what makes someone a murder in a situation. And I think that's something the show could have done. And
it could have done in that moment. Instead, the scene that happened is that the kids are talking about her and saying like, yeah, I hated her and this and like glad she's gone. Where it's just like, I feel like the show gave her the redemption, but still killed her off in the sense that, and I don't like that they gave her a redemption because of this. It's like, because she made the decision to like, okay, I will bring them food up to the roof, but she gets caught by the other student who's literally a psychopathic zombie by that point, and he eats her. So it's just really like, no, you don't get to die with your conscience clean because you were going to go do the right thing. Because what would have been the right thing is you opening the door, letting them know there was food there when they were in the room.
But there wasn't even any food in the room.
Again, there was food in the room though. There was.
I mean, in the web, I know like I shouldn't be like trying to make direct comparisons, but I think like where like, and normally I wouldn't be harping on like if some adaptions don't adaptations don't stick explicitly to the original content. My problem with this so much, especially with other adaptations where they're not done as well, is if the changes made don't add to the story. That's my problem. The changes made do not improve the story. They actually made it worse.
Yeah. It's like, okay, her withholding the food just makes the kid's situation more dire. That's literally it. Her decision ultimately doesn't do anything. And I was really kind of happy. I'm like, why the teacher sacrifice? I was happy with her leaving. I was like, ma'am, I know why you went after that child, because she's a child and you feel responsible for all these children. But I was like, this was a waste. A waste. Like, she was a waste. She is not redeeming at all. I would have been fine with her just dying.
The show is such a mess. Like, that show could have been 8 episodes. It did long.
Feel like it could have been 8 episodes, and then like we don't have to get into all of it, because I mean, like I said, I felt it entertaining enough for me while I was doing homework, and that's all I really needed in that moment, was something where I could turn my brain off and just watch it. Honestly, I've been wanting like another zombie show, so like for someone who like enjoys this kind of genre, I felt like it gave me what I needed. It was pretty good in certain parts. You know, I did like how it sometimes did jump to like the guy who created the virus and like that whole thing, but like how we got here. Like, I like knowing how we got here with the virus, because like, you know, in some zombie movies we don't even we know, like Train to Busan, I don't think we find out how the virus starts. It just starts.
No, in the beginning of the film, it does hint of how the virus starts, and it starts with the company that Gong Yu's character works at.
That's right. And then that's right. They did. And they reveal it that it happened there. And then there's the anime that also like adds.
I still have to watch the anime. I should be embarrassed that I haven't
watched it.
It's a pretty good
watch.
That's on Netflix too, right?
Yeah. Oh no, Amazon Prime actually.
It's on Amazon Prime. Soul Station. Yeah, because that's what it's called, Soul Station. I'm embarrassed that I haven't watched it yet, because Train to Busan is my favorite film.
It's a good watch. Yeah, no, never mind. I'm thinking of like other zombie movies that like we literally just have no idea how it starts.
Because then sometimes like you don't know, because like the government, if something like this happened, the government ain't gonna tell you exactly what happened.
The government ain't gonna tell you at all. But I like it where it's like,
for Walking Dead, do we ever find out exactly how the outbreak starts? No, we don't. We get some kind of hint because of the CDC when they go to the CDC and someone talks about it, but there's like no specific scenes that say these are the steps that led to the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, for this one, for me, I was just like, so this entire thing started because this man wanted to make his son toxic masculinity. You know what started this? You know what started toxic masculinity?
Another change from the story that doesn't make sense, because they made him into a misogynistic religious fanatic. Does not exist in the comics. When I saw that, I'm like, you got to be.
I was very confused, because I was like, what does any of this have to do with any of this? Because I was just like, so your son was so traumatized, so in pain that he tried to take his life, which I felt, you know who I felt bad in this entire show? That one group of children and that boy. That's it. That's who I felt bad for, because what the hell? Your father injects you with a virus to make you stronger, which actually turns you into a freaking zombie. The man literally caused the zombie apocalypse to happen because of toxic masculinity. You told your son, why can't you just be stronger? What?
That does not happen in the book. So I'm not finished with the webtoon, but I'm pretty far into it. I think I would say I'm 2.5 thirds almost done with it.
Okay.
That does not happen, because what happens is the science teacher, how it starts. So yeah, the girl does get bit by the hamster.
Right.
But he's the one who's trying to figure out what's happening, because he found his son infected. And and he was running tests to find out what the hell was going on.
That doesn't make sense. It don't make sense why they changed it then.
So like, that's what I'm talking. So it's like, so far, like what he did is he left a message. He left a note to the teacher, and he left his laptop, and he was leaving research. So I haven't gotten to the. As I said, I haven't gotten.
I'm gonna read the webtoon.
But so far, like the scenes, the flat, because he does die, and the scenes that we got, he doesn't even turn.
So he's immune.
No, he dies. He gets eaten.
But he doesn't turn. Okay, I see what you're saying. He dies, but he doesn't turn. Okay.
Exactly. So where I am in the book so far is like he was like just as confused because he found his son eating his mom. right? So like I really want to finish because I want to see just how much of that particular aspect of the story they changed. Because like when I watched, I'm like, this makes no fucking sense. Why is this man a Bible thumping fanatic? For one, religion happens nowhere in the webtoon, and I understand why, because like South Korea is, as I said, a conservative state, and like religion does play a big part in their culture. Like cults, especially in particular, are like very popular in South Korea, believe it or not.
Also, the vaccine, like that. Now that you say, because it was, I remember he's like, but you literally said you couldn't cure your wife or son, and you recorded that on the laptop. So why would you send the cop back to the school to get your laptop? Like, everything I have on there is there. If there's a way to solve this, it's there. I'm like, no, it's not. They literally ended up having to blow everybody up and shut down the city. The city's basically not on the map no more. Y'all pulled a Gotham. Y'all said it's uninhabitable. It ain't a part of us no more. Bye.
So anyway, so that we weren't really fully intending to do like a full review of All of Us Are Dead, but there you go, everyone. You have
there we go. There's the big review.
I should make a note that I kind of knew this show wasn't going to be that good off the bat, because the writer wrote another drama called Luca the Beginning, which was released in early 2021, and that was one of the worst dramas, bar none, of 2021. So you got the writer that wrote one of the worst dramas in 2021 writing this one. And I'm like, dude, you need to pick another genre, because Luca is also a sci-fi kind of pre-apocalyptic drama. And that was one that had a really interesting premise that just jumped the shark and went clean off the rails like halfway through the show. Like when you got to halfway, you're like, what the hell is going on? And you just watch it because you can't believe this is happening, but it happened. And I'm like, the actors, these are so much better than what they got. And yeah, there's the writing. We saw how that turned out, not so good. But it was like, yeah, no. Because this is one of those dramas, like the more you think about it, the more problems you find about it, and you realize,
like I said, if you have something to do and you don't want to think about it that much, you will be entertained like I was. But afterwards, you're gonna point out things and notice stuff, and you're gonna be like, pause. Because I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna read the webtoon. That's where I'm at now. Read the webtoon. I'm just gonna read the webtoon. There's things I like. There's things that like just didn't make sense with the plot.
So many things. There's so many plot holes. So I'm not, since we spent so much time talking about All of Us Are Dead, I'm not gonna do like a full review of any of the shows that I'm watching. I'll just list them, and you guys can go watch them if you want. So I've been watching The Ghost Doctor. That one is shown on Viki, Bad and Crazy. Those two are Korean dramas. I've been watching Kai X Yuka, Abumai Ibon. So that's a Japanese drama adapted from a manga. And I've been watching Line Watchers, which is a Hong Kong drama, which I am pretty sure is just one long big promotional video for their customs division. If you watch the drama, you know what I'm talking about. I'm like, did the government give the studio money, say, here, make a drama about you can get all of this money if you make basically a drama about the customs division. It's not too bad, but it's kind of funny. It's not funny as in haha like a comedy, but it's just funny to me because every time I watch it, I'm just like, this is a promotional video for their customs division. And I've been watching a mainland Chinese drama called Why Women Love. So this one is, I have to look up see what name if there's a name for it in Chinese, but for Korean dramas, they're known as Nuna romances, where the female protagonist, female lead character is older than the male love interest. So this one is like that. And this one is like, she works at a tech company that creates like dating apps. And so he's her assistant, and he is the son of the woman who owns the company. I'm only 10 episodes in, and I think it's only 11 episodes sub so far. So it's an ongoing drama. So that one has been pretty good. So I've been watching some like really nice dramas. Ghost Doctor, as I said, is ongoing. That one is so good. That one has Kibom and Rain, and it's really good. It's really funny. And Bad and Crazy is completed, so you can find that on Drama Cool. I'm not sure. And you can also watch it on Ichi, so that's IQUI TV. So that one is you can find it on there as well. And just those are the dramas that I've been watching recently. As I said, I'm not gonna do it for review because we don't have that kind of time. But I think we're just gonna get ready to wrap up now. And again, everyone, thank you so much for listening to us. This is our first official podcast recording for 2022. Yeah. So it's gonna be released in February because we're a little late getting to January. But you know, the point of the matter is that we did it. So Neysha, you can do your wrap up, and then I'll do my wrap up.
Yeah. So as always, y'all can follow and engage with us on Instagram or on Twitter. On Twitter, we are at SHWH_pod. Carolyn can I think it's just So Here's What Happened podcast on Instagram. You can also engage with me on those platforms at Neysha Plays. That's NEYSHAPLAYS, where I have been very consistent with cosplays. Also, it is 28, in addition to it being Black History Month. A lot of us cosplayers, but specifically Black cosplayers, we use this month to highlight the work that we do for 28. It's hashtag 28 days of cosplay, 28 days of Black cosplay. So y'all should check out that hashtag. You can see a lot of great cosplayers, a lot of people who don't get a lot of shine or attention, or people who just love to cosplay casually. So enjoy it, check it out, and support and follow those people too.
Yes, and you can find me on social media, Twitter and Instagram at CarrieCNH. That's CRRIECNH12. You can follow my live tweet hashtags dramas with Carrie, where I live tweet some of the dramas that I'm currently watching, usually 8 p.m. Eastern during the week, and Saturday Night Sci-Fi, where I am my co-host. We host a live tweet of different sci-fi films and shows from around the world and on different streaming platforms every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. And you can go on my YouTube channel and see my interviews with film creators for Carolyn and Talks, as well as the podcast version under So Here's What Happened on butwhythepodcast.com. And you can find all of our podcasts on Acast and Acast supported streaming platforms. And as I said before, butwhythepodcast.com. And I think that's it for our wrap up. Like, we've been doing so good. Like Neysha, that she announced at the beginning, did a script for a show, which I'm so proud of her for doing. And I cover Sundance. You can find my interviews with creators for Sundance on my YouTube channel, and I will be gradually uploading the podcast versions of those episodes. It takes time, but I'll be gradually uploading them. And I need to do better with the So Here's What Happened Instagram account. I will do better. But until the next episode, everyone, thank you for listening to us, and we hope you enjoyed the content. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.